do a lot in the book also talking about fake meat, which I just, this topic is so preposterous to me that
Yeah.
like, why are we making vegetables look like meat or taste like meat or be textured like meat? And to think, like, you read the ingredient label, you can't pronounce anything.
No.
It's full of all kinds of crap. Like, why did we think that was going to be better for us?
Yeah, yeah, and actually, we know it isn't. We know it isn't, and I think this new lawsuit against the famous plant-based meat company in the States. It'll be interesting to see how that works out, because they've been accused of overestimating the protein content and the quality of that protein, and it will be very interesting to see what the outcome of that is. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that, because those ingredient combinations are just not very tried and tested. And the Sarah Keogh from Understanding Ag does a great analysis of the process of creating the pea protein isolates. This is not a natural process that we have a huge amount of experience with, that we know is safe, right? And it's as industrial as creating seed oils, vegetable oils. They're not a very natural product either. So I think we will start to see over time, as if more and more people do eat these fake burgers, we're going to start to see some complications from that.
Yeah, I agree. It will be interesting to see how the lawsuit plays out. You bring up a really good point. Like, do people actually eat these things? If you look at the stock price for Beyond Burgers, whatever, it's been
Not going so well, is it?
No,
No.
for years, even before the lawsuit. And
Yeah.
this is just observation, just from what I see. I don't notice a lot of people choosing that when they have the option. I don't see a lot of people ordering that at restaurants. I don't see a lot of people that have that in their shopping carts. And in
Yeah.
England, a shopping cart is a trolley. Is that right?
That's right, a trolley. Yeah.
I see. Again, I like that word better. I like trolley better.
Yeah. Yeah.
It seems like they're either always on sale because nobody's buying them. I don't see people eating them. So I know that people do, but just anecdotally, I don't think a lot of people are using that.
Yeah, this is why I find that fascinating, that insight that you just had, because on one level, the plant-based message seems to be ascendant, and one gets the impression that within 10 years, we're all going to be eating that way, right? If you were to read the newspaper, most policy documents, certainly the ones that come out of the UK government, they all have eradication of meat, 50% less meat, et cetera, as part of their goal. So on the one level, you have that as the possible trajectory. On the other hand, you have the absolute decline in consumption and popularity of these novelty meats, right? And people still eating meat. People, despite all of the brouhaha, all of the propaganda, they still eat meat. So how come we see these divergent kind of views of the future?
Yeah.
And somebody asked me today, I did a show, an interview with somebody in Ireland, and they said, don't you think we're losing the battle? Don't you think that the vegan argument has already won and there's no stopping it? I said, no, I don't think so, because of that divergence, right? We're not there yet.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean we should be complacent, because we might yet get there. But there's still enough room in this debate. People are still not buying into that plant-based message quite as much as we might be led to believe.
Yeah, that's right. Or they might agree with the idea, and they might not want to harm, animals or things like that. But when push comes to shove and you get a menu pushed in front of you, are you going to choose the Impossible Burger, or are you going to choose a steak? I think when that happens, people's choices are really apparent. Even the fast food joint down the street, they, when they started offering the Beyond Burger or Impossible, whatever there was, plant-based burger, they advertised it hard. And I don't see those advertisements anymore. So whether they still offer it, I don't know, but it's not being advertised the way that it was. They're back to advertising their normal beef burgers that they were famous for. So yeah, it'll be curious to see how that kind of unfolds. Speaking of, I had this experience a few years ago. I shared it on social media. I got blasted for it, of course. I'm at the store. I'm waiting in line. I'm waiting behind a family of three. They don't look like they're in tremendous good shape. They, kind of have a little bit of a belly and whatever. They are loading up the conveyor belt full of soy products and vegetables. The vegetables are wrapped in plastic, then placed in plastic bags to then be placed in more plastic bags.
Right.
Soy milk, plant-based yogurt I saw, all of these different like juices and all of these things. I'm standing there with like 2 pounds of ground beef, which is like enough food for me for like a day and a half, basically.
Right.
And I'm just thinking to myself, like, okay, so I'm the one that's ruining the planet? Like, all of these foods were not found in the back of the grocery store. Like an employee didn't just go pick these for you an hour ago. Where did these things come from? But also, when did these things come from? These things are picked a long time ago and treated very differently. Can you talk a little bit about the things that you learned as far as the environmental argument goes?
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's a very complicated argument, but you're right that the foods, we just simply can't say plants good, animal foods bad, or meat is bad for the environment. It really is not that simple. It never was that simple. And I think the work being done, for instance, around the milks is very interesting, because when, we know, for instance, that almond milk takes a lot of water to make, and compared to dairy milk. But we didn't know much else about it. And so it was always said that those plant milks were better for the environment. But in fact, when you look at the emissions as a ratio of the nutrients in the milks, dairy milk comes off much better than the plant milks, because there are no nutrients really to speak of, not many nutrients in those plant milks. So oat milk is really oat water, isn't it? That's what it is. So I think the plant milks, we're realizing that they're not the environmental heroes. And in fact, Oatly is the company, do you get Oatly in the States, the oat milk?
I'm not sure, because I don't shop for oat milk. We might.
No, of course you don't. Of course you don't.
I'm not familiar with the brand, but yeah.
It's a very big brand. It's doing really well, and they promote themselves on the environmental benefits. And they have been hauled in front of the Advertising Standards Agency here for false advertising on that front. So again, I think that those advertising standards authorities might be our best friends in this kind of debate, because they are holding these companies to account for the environmental claims that they make.